to your store. So one thing to note about this cheese is it can be out of refrigeration. You'll have a beautiful display, I'm sure. It is a wonderful seller. It sells on its own just for the namesake itself. However, when you go to cut it, me personally, I do not notice a big difference between it being warm and it being cold. In fact, I prefer it to be colder when I cut it. And the reason for it is because the exterior rind, as you'll see when I break into this package, is really sticky and it kind of gets everywhere. It is a cheese that, once again, kind of like a blue cheese, you want to do it at the end. It's not so much because it's infectious like a blue cheese is. I mean, it is like all cheese, but it's because cleaning this off your cutter is kind of the biggest pain in the butt in the world. And if you have a second cutter, then whatever. But if you are working on one cutter, you probably want to do this at the end of the day. So if you have a display of it and you have enough pieces, I would recommend putting it in refrigeration even for just a couple hours to cool it down, so that way the rind isn't as sticky. This will also smell a little bit. This will probably be the stinkiest out of the ones that I'm cutting today. So, when it comes to cutting Gruyere, it's a little bit different than cutting any of the other wheels. It is a mountain cut. It's talking about the region in which it is made. It's, you know, a Swiss cheese, and made in the Alpine regions. They're all big. It goes back to a rich history that they have, which I won't delve into, but they have a specific cut that you typically do for them. So it has paper on the top. You can cut through the paper. It's a lot easier than peeling off the paper. If you peel off the paper, because the rind is so sticky, you won't get it all off. I guarantee you won't get it all off. And then it will look really weird when you have it on display. So I always prefer to keep the paper on. I think it has a cleaner look to it. So you just want to go through and slice the top, so that way you make sure you get through the paper. How much is this a pound, Cheryl Ann?
I don't remember. I think $16.99.
Oh, actually, I think there was a tag on here, wasn't there? No. I think it's just a sell-by date, though. Yeah. So this is, once again, a dang good price, $16.99 a pound. So when you get to the end down here, instead of going horizontally, you can, or vertically, it depends on which way you're looking at it, you just go the opposite way. Now, the reason why I'm doing it this way is to have an equal cheese to rind ratio. You don't want to get a customer that gets all rind. I mean, there are cheeses like Parmesan Reggiano where you can reuse the rind of the cheese. This particular one I haven't seen. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist, that there's a recipe out there, but most customers aren't going to be pleased even if it's Parmesan Reggiano and you get a whole just rind piece. You know, that's why they would buy Parmesan rind, or, you know, some people will purposefully ask to have it hacked off so that way they can have the rind themselves. So you then just go through, you cut all the lines that you make on the Gruyere. Now, because this cheese is sticky, you either want to choose to touch the paste or the rind, but try to avoid touching both because you'll get little fingerprints of where you touch the rind when you touch the paste, and then that will just look really messy. So you want to try to avoid that as much as possible. Running out of surface area to put it on.
Is that cheese usually so white?
It is. It is typically this color. If it's out of refrigeration, it will probably get a little bit more golden in color. Like I said, we probably pulled this out of refrigeration like maybe 2 hours ago at the most. So this is still fairly cold. I'm not. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you can take it right off of your out of display refrigeration and just hack into it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to be a lot more messy to deal with.
Lindsay, what's the difference between cave age Gruyere and red-headed Gruyere?
Just the cave and time, to be quite honest with you, just the development of that rind and flavor.
So same cultures?
I would think similar, personally. Yeah, it's all Gruyere. It's what they're aging. It's funny we talked a little bit in the back about how I used to think that the cheese making was the technique and the difficult part of it, you know, the physical day of cheese making. But I learned pretty quick that.
All right, so that's Gruyere. This one is typically like the easiest to cut when it comes out of your out of all your big wheels. Really, the time that I find it to be the hardest is when you get in the full wheels, which luckily you will not receive. Those are 80 pounders. This is just a quarter of it. And trying to lift that and then cut into it, that's when those 90 centimeter wires are in play, which you guys won't need at all because you won't see anything that large, but it's nice that you get to deal with a quarter of it and not the whole thing.